Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone's doing well, hope everyone's having fun, and I hope the universe is treating you fairly. Today's video is going to be the second video in my Welcome to Derry. I will probably cover some of the things that I covered in the first video, just in case somebody just stumbles across this video and hasn't watched the first video. So yeah, and I'll try to remember to put a link to the first video I did on Welcome to Derry in the description, but don't hold your breath. The first one I did a fanboy overview, which I'm guilty of fanboying. This, I like what the Micuccis are doing with Stephen King's It. I'd love to see it tie into other stuff, lead to other stuff, maybe other directors and writers that kind of do the Stephen King multiverse. Yeah, I know a lot of people are out there getting kind of wore out on the whole multiverse thing, but there's a difference between good multiverse realities like Stephen King and shitty multi-universe realities like the MCU. Now the comic, the Marvel comics with their multiple universes is pretty good, but the movies, well, if you're one of those people that has a functioning brain, it's shit. They started out strong, but they went to shit real fast. But I digress. Welcome to Derry, the Micucci universe instead of taking place in the 50s and the 80s, it takes place in the 80s and early 2000s. At first, because I used to be, and the It movies were kind of the culmination of my conversion. I used to be if you can't make it exactly like the book, you don't need to make it. I've said in other videos where I've talked about book versus movie, you can't, because when Stephen King writes, he doesn't write horror. He doesn't write ghosts, zombies, and stuff like that, even though they appear. What he writes is fear. Stephen King is such a masterful wordsmith. He can write a story about being afraid of a ballpoint pen that after everybody reads it will throw away every ballpoint pen they've ever owned. Because he writes fear. We, the reader, get to crawl inside the brain of the person, whether it is Roland from the Dark Tower, or Bill Dambro from It, or Danny Torrance from Shining, Dr. Sleep, or Carrie. We inhabit that person. Because he describes the fear, the adrenaline and stuff so accurately and so just masterfully worded that anything can be the monster. It doesn't have to be a terrifying hotel, terrifying clown. You know, it can be anything. A pencil, piece of paper. And that's what makes you have to change things up when you go from wonderful, great Stephen King novel to a theatrical or TV series or whatever. Just because we are not the actors. We are not inside the actors as they're doing the show. We can't. It's the way it is. And I will repeat that when this was announced in 2003, or 2023, excuse me, misread my notes. I had very, very low expectations. I was like, yeah, the Muscianes did. And please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing their last name. It's my head meat isn't the best in the world, so they made it relevant when they did the 2017 movie, and I forget what year the next one came out. 2020, 2019, I don't know. It's, or 2017, 2019, I believe, two came out. Andy and his sister Barbara, both wonderful. Great duel, great team up. They made a story that originally took place in the 50s and 80s and made it relevant to people who grew up in the 80s and were adults hitting middle age in the early, 2016, 2017. And he made it relevant for our generation. And he's continuing with that timeline, which I have to give him credit for. He's done a bang-on job. He's knocked it out of the park. Both of them, both Barbara and Andy, just boom, knocked this shit out of the park. Then again, they had a lot to work with. Stephen King gave them 3 short stories within a just huge novel. And he's taking his, and I'm getting yelled at by my cat. He's getting, he's getting it right. He's doing it right. And don't get me wrong, I love Kubrick's The Shining. I enjoyed King's remake of The Shining. Though if you watch the last video, it doesn't, that me liking King's, or enjoy, I should say I enjoyed King's remake of it. But it does fall flat because King tried to take his own work and do the purist thing with it, and it just doesn't work. Though some of the visuals in the Stephen King are wonderful. The feel and the presence of evil in the Kubrick one is a little bit better, but we're here to we're talking Welcome to Derry, not Shining. And the reason why we're doing that is Dick Hallorann. Dick Hallorann shows up in The Shining. And in Kubrick's version of The Shining, he gets killed. But in the novel and King's remake, Dick makes it out. Dick shows up as a ghost. He died naturally of old age in his sleep, and he shows up as a ghost to help Danny Torrance deal with The Shining. But in It Welcome to Derry, we get to see Dick Halloran learn how to control it himself. Well, he's already controlled it, but Pennywise, or It, breaks those barriers, and he has to rebuild them. He has to compartmentalize them, and it is, and I think that for me, the Dick Halloran Pennywise battle in the last 3 or 4 or last 2 episodes, I should say, 3 episodes, in which Dick and Pennywise are going at it. Oh yeah, by the way, spoilers. I forgot to put that at the beginning. I should probably put when I edit this, drop a title card that says spoilers. It is wonderful. It's well done. Now in the book, you have the black. We're doing the black spot. We're going backwards in time. We're going to black spot. Then we're going to do the shootout. Then we're going to do the ironworks explosion. And we get in the last episode why season 1, season 2, season 3 are going backwards in time, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. However, the wonderful world building, because King did give him so much. When they took the short story, the interlude, as it's called in the novel, of Mike Hanlon telling the Losers Club about the Black Spot fire, in which in the novel, his father was in the Air Force, and his father was there as a airman. Which time in the Micucci timeline doesn't work. So what they did is they made Mike's grandfather major in the Air Force, combat pilot. And yes, Will was at the Black Spot when he was a child. We know in the Micucci universe, if you've seen the It Chapter 1, It Chapter 2, spoilers at this point, that Will dies in a fire, leaving Mike to be raised by his grandfather, Leroy. Which is interesting because I like how they play it in this series. There's a scene in which Leroy and Mike are out fishing, fly fishing. Mike breaks his line. His father has to go back to the car, to the tackle box, to get a new fly. And Pennywise doesn't really attack. He's trying to scare Will. And he tells him, "You will burn too." He dies in a fire. Because because we find out in the last episode that Pennywise perceives time as a flat circle. This has happened before, this will happen again type situation. We also get the very first episode. I mentioned this in the last video a little bit. We get introduced to several characters. We get introduced to Teddy Urus, Stan Urus's uncle. Phil Malkin, which is Teddy's best friend. Susie Malcolm, Phil's younger brother. And they all die at the end of the first episode. This is probably one of the best fake outs I've ever seen, because throughout the first episode, they put together this group of kids. We get Lily Bainbridge, we get Veronica Rani, we get the Urus, we get Malkin, we get his little sister, and it's so they're methodically put together, methodically setting the pieces on the board. Then at the end of the show, the Muscianis pick up Lily and they pick up Veronica and they throw the board in the garbage. They throw everything else in the garbage and they start over in episode 2. And it is one of those things where you're like, fuck me. But what it does, it establishes the Uruses already being in Derry. It establishes that they're fairly devout Jewish family. It establishes that Teddy is dealing with being a minority, being of the Jewish faith, being a minority. In the second, third, fourth episodes, we are introduced to Marge. And Marge is one of those ones where you look at her and go, she's going to be important, because they play her off as so insignificant when she's first introduced, and they start to turn her into this just super insane cunt, who is going to sacrifice friendship for popularity. But what we find out in the last episode, that Marge Turman, is her last name, Truman, Turman, will grow up to be and marry a man by the name of Tozier, and Margie Tozier, who's mentioned in the original novel, is Richie Tozier's mother. And the scene in that episode is, man, when I watched that for the first time, I was like, that is awesome. That is scary as fuck, but that's awesome. So now we've established the Toziers and the Uruses in Derry. We brought in the Hanlons. So we got three of our future Loser Club families. We have Rich Santos, and Rich Santos is Marge's first love, and he sacrifices himself in the 7th episode for her, and that imprints that necessity of naming her first male child, Richie. And in this scene in episode 8, she's laying on the ice, she's got her back up against a stump, and Pennywise is taunting her, showing her a missing child thing with Wolf Finhart from the movies, picture on it, and he says the beep beep Margie, and that you're like, it's just like, yeah, because in the novel, all of Rich's friends, when he gets acting really stupid, is like, they're like beep beep Richie, and in the novel, because it takes place in the 50s, and we were not as socially aware as we are now, what was permissible to say in public was a little different. And in the novel, Richie comes across by 2025 terms as being a very misogynistic racist, which was changed when the Muscianis, because we moved on, we bettered ourselves as a society. So yeah, we get that, and we find out, this is where we find out that for Pennywise, yesterday, tomorrow, today are all the same, and it confuses him. He can't, because he's a celestial being from Todash space, that our concepts of time that we have in a physical earthly manifestation confuses him. He knows that the Losers Club in 2016 are going to kill him. So he, because of his perception of time being a flat circle, it's not that he's time traveling. I think a lot of people have got that twisted. I don't think he's time traveling. I think his consciousness exists kind of like Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen in all points of time at the same time. So his existence of crashing to Earth and dying are all in the same moment for him. Which you get into the philosophical things of it. You could make a 400-hour video and make multiple videos that length. But yeah, he's trying to kill Margie to take out Richie. Okay? I think 2027 is when season 2 comes out. Which I have a feeling we're going to get establishment of probably the Dimbro family. And I'm thinking Dimbros. And I can't think, because we've already got the Urus, Tozier, and Hanlons. And in the novel, Ben doesn't show up to just before the novel starts, because he's the new kid in his class in the novel. Then we have Bill Dimbro. And my notes aren't firing off anything. He had the limousine service and the adult side of the story. Let me look that up real quick. Bill Dimbro. Eddie Kasprak. That's the name that was eluding me. I have a feeling that we're either going to get the Kasprak family acknowledgement or the Dimbro or both. We've established the Bowers family. Although that whole family seems to be been a piece of shit from the word go. Yeah, we also get the establishment of the Marsh family in this one. So we've got the Urus, the Marsh, the Hanlons, and the Toziers. We got 4 of our Losers Club families. And like I said, Ben Hamskin shows up just before the book starts. As a kid, he's the new kid in school. We have the Dembros and we have the Casbrax. Can't talk. Now, theory, or not really a theory, hypothesis of me. Patrick Hochstetler in the novel is an extreme sociopath. I forgot what it's called, but he believes he's the only real thing. And in the novel, he does stuff like catch people's neighborhood pets, locks them in a freezer or a refrigerator, and lets them starve to death or suffocate, whichever comes first. We're talking the old school 50s refrigerators in the novel. So yeah, he gets off on that. He convinces Henry Bowers to give him a blowjob. This dude is a mess. I mean, he's broken in a lot of ways. And it is kind of confused by it because there's nothing it can do, nothing that Pennywise can do to scare him. So he's like, screw it. He doesn't like leeches. I'm going to be leeches. My hypothesis is he learned that from dealing with Leroy Hanlon, who was shot down in the Korean War and had damage to his amygdala and couldn't feel fear, which that too confused Pennywise. So Pennywise had in order to fuck with Leroy, had to pull in Will and Charlotte and stuff like that. And I think there's a parallel as far as confusion of Pennywise, because even though Patrick was an evil psycho, and Leroy was an all-around good guy. So yeah, there's that. So I have a feeling that because of the way the thing is with Pennywise existing in all points in time at the same time, both of those things could have been going on at the same time from Pennywise's point of view. So like I said, the philosophical nature of this is just off the chain. We get a cameo by Sophia Lillis in the last moments of episode 8, and they de-aged her a lot because I believe Sophie Lillis now is in her mid to late 20s. Let me check that real quick. Yeah. And they did that. That was one of the things that I think they did yeah, she's in her 20s. She was born in 2002. Sophia, February 13th, 2002. So she is in her 20s. But they de-aged her back till 11, 12 years old. And they did a pretty good job. I know a lot of the de-aging, a lot of the CGI and stuff like that gets dated. We'll see. We'll find out over time if this gets dated or not. Because the very last moments of episode 8, is just before the first movie. It's setting up the first movie. Yeah, I don't think, like I said, I don't think Pennywise is time traveler. I just think he has more of a Dr. Manhattan concept, or living in basically all points from the time he crash landed on Earth till the Losers Club kills him simultaneously, and he's trying to figure out how to circumvent his death. There's been speculation. I've seen things where they're gonna rewrite the end of King's book. I don't think they will. I hope they don't. But what we can get, though, is how the great Maturin is putting the pieces on the table and playing the long game, multiple generations, to establish the Losers Club to kill Pennywise. I think that's what we'll get. I hope that's what we get. We may get something that nobody's thought about, but I would really love to see that basically, I got mixed feelings. I don't know if I want to see the the giant space turtle Maturin on screen. I don't know. But at the same time, I kind of do. But because of the whole Toadash thing, I could do a whole video on just Toadash space in the Stephen King universe. But actually, I could do a whole bunch of very, very long videos on that. But read the Dark Tower series. Wonderful series. It's not horror. It's basically Stephen King paying homage to everybody that's ever inspired Stephen King. It's a wonderful series. It's the good, the bad, the ugly meets Seven Samurai meets the Magnificent Seven meets Star Wars. You know, and only Stephen King could do that. It's a wonderful series. But yeah, so this series, I'm waiting patiently for season 2, and it's been, it hasn't been 6 months since season 1 ended, and and the thing is Warner Bros. Hasn't officially said that they're going to do season 2. So, but they are. They are. As much revenue as this has pulled in, subscriptions and stuff like that. And that's another thing. I don't understand how they do revenue on streaming and stuff. I know, like, right now on Warner Brothers, there are certain things that aren't on Warner Brothers because they've rented them out to, like, Netflix or Peacock or whatever, and they rent stuff. They rent stuff off of other platforms too, and I think that's how they make money. You have something super popular like The Shining or Dark Knight Returns, and you go, okay, from this date to this date, we're going to pull it off our service so you can put it on your service and try to generate subscriptions, but it's going to cost you X number of dollars. I think that's how a lot of their revenue gets made, but I could be wrong. I don't understand streaming revenue, so it is what it is. But yeah, they're these elements. The whole taking parts of the asteroid that imprisoned it when it was kicked out of Todash space. And it crashed into Earth as pillars to keep him confined to the Derry area. And it answers the question from the novel. Why didn't it just go, across the United States, killing and munching and what have you? I have another hypothesis that the entity, an maturing entity, well, we know they're at war. And we know, if you've read the novel, from the in this universe, we live in turtle vomit. I'm going on this tangent, because I forgot where I was going with the other one. And we basically, in the stomach, Maturin ate something in Todash space that upset his stomach. He vomited, and that's our universe. So we live in turtle vomit. I would love to get Neil deGrasse Tyson's, what he would think. That would be awesome. Because he translate. Neil deGrasse Tyson's real good at translating fiction and science and blurring the lines and saying what has to do this, what has to do that. But, this thing, and these things. And I don't think, even though they dumped the one pillar into the lava, I don't think it's destroyed. I think being in the lava, it may be inert while it's in the lava, just simply because it was strong enough to entrap the deadlights, which is its natural form, and only broke apart when it hit the earth. So I don't think mere lava is going to destroy that. I think it may be rendered inert or something like that, but I don't think it's actually destroyed. And I believe they used igneous rock. I can't remember the name of the igneous rock. So yeah, and it's beautiful. I want to say onyx, but I think onyx is synthetic. So yeah, it's wonderfully done. And we know, because of the 88, 89, the late 88, early 90 through 99 cycle, and in the 2016 cycle, that those pillars aren't tampered with, because it is still confined to Derry. They may or may not play that big of a deal in the next two seasons. I don't think they will. I think we've established what we needed to establish with that. I think we'll go more detail into how the ceremonies and how Mike Hanlon in the 2016 time period misinterpreted the ritual of Chud and thought it was a way to kill him, when in fact it was just the ritual they used when they set the pillars and caged him. So yeah, and I think that's how come it failed in the It Chapter 2. But that's just a theory of mine, a theory I have, or a hypothesis, not really a theory. So yeah, it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. And like I said, check this. If you like good horror, Stephen King tells the horror. Stephen King does with horror what authors like Philip K. Dick and Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, and Frank Herbert did with sci-fi. He's telling a fairly mundane story, a warning, but he's wrapping it up in this beautiful box with this beautiful wrapping paper for us. So yeah, that's what it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you all go. Take care. Be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?